Emmerdale's Cain Dingle has been dealt a devastating blow this week with a cancer diagnosis. But what is the character's age? Viewers of the ITV soap will recall that Cain, Jeff Hordley, sustained gunshot injuries during last month's Hordley crossover. Subsequently, whilst receiving treatment at hospital, the beloved Dale's character was informed by medical staff that abnormalities had been detected in his test results, prompting them to carry out a biopsy for further examination. Viewers of the ITV soap will recall that Cain, Jeff Hordley, sustained gunshot injuries during last month's Hordley crossover. Subsequently, whilst receiving treatment at hospital, the beloved Dale's character was informed by medical staff that abnormalities had been detected in his test results, prompting them to carry out a biopsy for further examination. Initially, Cain found it difficult to come to terms with his diagnosis and reacted angrily towards those closest to him, but eventually chose to open up to his granddaughter, Sarah Sugden, Katie Hill, who herself has faced multiple cancer diagnoses over the years, reports the Daily Star. Discussing the available treatment paths, Liam reassured him. "Once you've had the surgery, people recover from this grade group and type of cancer all the time. The scariest bit is going to be letting us support you." Later, Cain paid a visit to his wife, Moira, Natalie J. Robb, in prison after she was falsely accused of the murders of Celia Daniels, Jay Griffiths, and Anya Barisha, Olia Al-Shabibi. Upon seeing his wife sporting a black eye, Cain was visibly shaken and chose not to disclose the full extent of his predicament to Moira. Cain confessed to having cancer, but he downplayed it, describing it as tiny and not requiring treatment. Discussing the available treatment paths, Liam reassured him. "Once you've had the surgery, people recover from this grade group and type of cancer all the time. The scariest bit is going to be letting us support you." Later, Cain paid a visit to his wife, Moira, Natalie J. Robb, in prison after she was falsely accused of the murders of Celia Daniels, Jay Griffiths, and Anya Barisha, Olia Al-Shabibi. Upon seeing his wife sporting a black eye, Cain was visibly shaken and chose not to disclose the full extent of his predicament to Moira. Cain confessed to having cancer, but he downplayed it, describing it as tiny and not requiring treatment. Sarah later attempted to persuade her granddad to be truthful with Moira, stating, "Come on, you've seen me go through this. Cancer's hardly something you squeeze into your work break." Cain then admitted that his main focus was securing Moira's release from prison. As Cain's cancer storyline unfolds, soap fans might be curious about the character's actual age. Cain was born on November 30th, 1974, making him just 51 years old. Meanwhile, actor Jeff Hordley is 55 years old. Emmerdale fans have been left deeply moved by Cain's diagnosis, with one viewer posting on X, formerly Twitter, "I'm a mess, completely broken, tears and snot everywhere. This Cain and cancer story is destroying me." Another viewer chimed in, "Been a long time since Emmerdale made me cry, but this Cain storyline is getting to me." And another confessed, "I'm a blubbering mess. People moan about silly storylines in soaps and how they're all doom and gloom. But if Cain's diagnosis can save just one man's life, then that's got to be a good thing." Emmerdale fans have watched Cain Dingle survive just about everything life has thrown at him over the years. Betrayals, prison stints, family feuds, and brushes with death that would have broken most men. But this week, the ITV soap delivered a storyline that has left viewers emotionally wrecked. Because this time, Cain isn't fighting an enemy he can punch, threaten, or outmaneuver. This time, the fight is happening inside his own body. The moment everything changed. Viewers will remember that Cain Dingle's latest ordeal began far from the Yorkshire village he's called home for decades. During last month's dramatic Hordley crossover, Cain found himself caught in the middle of a violent showdown that ended with him being shot. Rushed to hospital with gunshot injuries, Cain was initially focused on survival, gritting his teeth, cracking dark jokes, and refusing to show fear. For Cain, pain was nothing new. What he didn't expect was that the gunshot wounds would lead to something far worse. While treating his injuries, hospital staff noticed abnormalities in Cain's test results. At first, it seemed like a minor complication, another inconvenience in a long line of Dingle disasters. But doctors weren't prepared to take chances. Further tests were ordered. Then came the biopsy. And with it, a life-changing diagnosis. A devastating diagnosis. Cain returned to hospital expecting answers. But not that answer. The doctor's words landed with brutal force. Aggressive, yet localized prostate cancer. For a moment, Cain didn't react. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, as if refusing to let the words sink in. Cancer wasn't something he associated with himself. It happened to other people. Weaker people. Unlucky people. Not Cain Dingle. The medical professional explained that although the cancer was aggressive, it was localized and treatable. The recommended option was a radical prostatectomy, a major operation with potentially life-altering side effects. Cain heard every word, and hated every second of it. Anger, denial, and pushing people away. Back in the village, Cain struggled to come to terms with what he'd been told. The man who prided himself on control suddenly had none. He snapped at those closest to him, brushed off concern, reacted with anger instead of fear, because anger felt safer, familiar, easier to manage. Friends noticed the change immediately, but Cain refused to talk, until he couldn't anymore. Sarah Sugden, the one person who understood. Eventually, Cain chose to open up, not to his wife, not to his friends, but to his granddaughter, Sarah Sugden. Sarah had already endured multiple cancer diagnoses throughout her young life. She knew the fear, the waiting, the endless hospital corridors, and impossible conversations. Cain didn't sugarcoat it. He told her the truth. And Sarah listened, not with panic, but with quiet understanding. She reminded him that pretending nothing was wrong wouldn't make it go away. That survival wasn't about toughness. It was about honesty. For Cain, it was the first crack in the armor he'd worn his entire life. Liam Kavanagh's quiet truth. In scenes that aired later that week, Cain finally confided in his close friend and local GP, Liam Kavanagh. Liam didn't lecture him, didn't dramatize it. Instead, he spoke calmly, reassuringly. Once you've had the surgery, people recover from this grade group and type of cancer all the time, Liam explained. The scariest bit is going to be letting us support you. The words hit Cain harder than the diagnosis itself. Because Liam was right. Cain Dingle didn't know how to ask for help. Moira behind bars. Later, Cain faced another battle, one that weighed just as heavily on his heart. He went to visit his wife, Moira Dingle, who remains in prison after being falsely accused of the murders of Celia Daniels and Anya Barisha. The sight that greeted him shattered what little resolve he had left. Moira had a black eye. She was shaken, exhausted, barely holding herself together. And in that moment, Cain made a decision that would haunt him. He couldn't tell her everything. The lie told out of love. Cain admitted he had cancer, but he lied about how serious it was. He called it tiny, said it didn't need treatment, claimed doctors were just keeping an eye on it. It's not serious, Moira, he promised. I swear. Moira's relief was instant. Oh, thank God, she said softly. That's one less thing for us to worry about. Cain swallowed the truth, and the guilt, whole. Cancer's not something you squeeze into your work break. Later, Sarah confronted her granddad. She urged him to be honest with Moira, reminding him of everything she'd been through herself. Come on, she said. You've seen me go through this. Cancer's hardly something you squeeze into your work break. Cain didn't argue. Instead, he admitted the real truth. Right now, his only focus was getting Moira out of prison. Everything else, even his own life, came second. So, how old is Cain Dingle? As Cain's cancer storyline continues to unfold, many viewers have been surprised to learn just how old the character actually is. Cain Dingle was born on November 30th, 1974, making him 51 years old. Actor Jeff Hordley, who has portrayed Cain since 2000, is currently 55 years old. The storyline has resonated deeply with fans, particularly in its portrayal of male vulnerability, fear, and emotional repression. Fans left completely broken. Social media has been flooded with emotional reactions. One viewer wrote on X, formerly Twitter, "I'm a mess, completely broken, tears and snot everywhere. This Cain and cancer story is destroying me." Another added, "Been a long time since Emmerdale made me cry, but this Cain storyline is getting to me." A third fan summed up the wider response perfectly. People moan about silly storylines in soaps and how they're all doom and gloom. But if Cain's diagnosis can save just one man's life, then that's got to be a good thing. What comes next for Cain Dingle? Cain Dingle has faced violence, prison, betrayal and loss. But this time, he's facing something he can't intimidate or escape. A battle for his future. And the biggest question remains. How long can he keep lying to protect the woman he loves, before the truth destroys them both?